Grail. I was hoping it was going to be here. It's not here. But I've seen pictures. It's a beautiful guitar. Kind of follows that concept that you've always used, kind of the two volume knobs, the two pickups, and the headstock, like the 6 in a row kind of thing. Can you tell me what was your vision for the guitar? What was your goals in having a guitar like that?
Okay, so for me, the Flying V, prior to me playing it, was a 21 fret instrument. I made a 24 fret Flying V. There were none before me. So.
Wow, that is cool.
And as far as the electronic configuration on that too, I did that for simplicity. And if you're going to be sitting around at home playing in the studio and goofing around, hey man, have as many knobs as you want. If you're out on the road and you're a professional and you're playing at the level that we do, you got to have tools that will work and that are reliable. And the last thing I want to be doing is have somebody or something, myself included, accidentally adjust any of the settings on my guitar. I think Eddie Van Halen was the one who had surpassed all of the electronics and just went volume knob to the pickup. So, hi Eddie.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So the actual design of it, the Holy Grail, the 24 karat, came from some epiphany you had?
I had gone to Israel.
Israel, that's right.
We had gone there to play a couple times, and the great thing about going to Israel, it is the Holy Land, and whether you're Jewish or not, or even to the extent that you may be an anti-Semite, the land there has a profound spiritual effect on you, because there's so much history. And there are so many people there that are experiencing that Messiah experience. I felt it,
Did you really?
I totally had a transition that was mind-blowing. I didn't see anything, I didn't hear any voices, the angels didn't sing, the heavens didn't part, but I felt something there. Very magnificent. And the crazy thing too, you think Israel is just a place that was brought up in the middle of the desert. It's just a dump that had malaria and mosquitoes everywhere, and the Israelis went there and built this flourishing country in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And I went over there. First time I went, I was hanging with one of my friends who was Ira Felly's dad, who was a bodyguard I had over there. And we tripped around, and I noticed stuff like sunflower seeds, big as pumpkin seeds, oranges the size of grapefruits, just flourishing. So it was great for me to go there. And I'm inside of this place where supposedly the slab was that Christ was laid out on, rooms over here where they're drawing lots for his robe. On top of Golgotha, the skull mountain, is a hole in the ground where the crucifix was supposedly entered into the ground. And people could reach inside there and feel where the bottom of who knows what's in there. You could have put a bunch of scorpions in there and dumbasses would have been sticking their hand in there left and right just because of what's going on. But one of the things that was probably the most noticeable for me was the use of rich colors, the crimsons and the gold. So lavish, and it's just so, it's just so opulent, all the jewels and stuff like that in the churches. And I thought, if I wanted to make a guitar that just was this beautiful chunk of gold that was just oozing blood, what would it look like? And that was the initial idea. And as we tried to look at other different ideas, we'd seen other people, like the guy from White Zombie had a clear guitar full of blood. Other people that had bloody handprints on the guitars. I think Gary Holt even had his guitar made with some of his own blood, like Kiss did with their comics. Yeah, so I wasn't willing to go that far, but looking at the guitar the way that it turned out, it was just remarkable, because it's a beautiful piece of art. Whether you play it or you make a coffee table out of it, it's one of the most beautiful things that Dean's ever done. I've never seen a guitar like that in my life. In fact, I haven't seen anything that's a musical instrument at all that looks like that.
No, it's pretty remarkable. And so the first one is 33? There's 33
done. There's only 33 in the world.
That's it? Wow. Mm-hmm. And you have number one?
I have a bad one that was the wrong paint color that the painters had gotten from the guy. It was a mix-up of Pantone. And I have a second one that is, but it's just like my Strata VMTs. I really don't like playing those because they're heirlooms, It'd be different if you just had a guitar that was a hollow body and put a couple of F-holes on it, but the fact that it's a flying V,
Yeah.
and to do that with as small of material that they have, very unforgiving amount of material. And I used that for the symphony thing I did in 2014 with the San Diego Symphony.
Oh, wow.
Squirrely
Really?
guitar, you gotta know how to handle it because it sustains so well. I mean, it's not like that kind of thing, but it's pretty warm sound, very emotional guitar. The way that the sound is very sad, somber kind of sound to it. It's not like a real brittle kind of sound. It's very subtle. You know how violins have that really beautiful nylon kind of soulful sound to them. Yeah, there's something that they did with the way that they used the wood on that and the laminate on the top of the guitar. It was just the right amount. To me, it's perfect.
That's so cool. You talk about the project with the symphony orchestra, Dave. You said that had sort of impacted your approach to the guitars or the music on the Dystopia record, and that you had going into the record that kind of rubbed off on you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I've always liked classical music, but because it's tuned for violin and predominantly played on piano, as a guitarist, it's harder for me to play some of the stuff. I'm also self-taught, so I can't read sheet music, so it's a pain in the butt for me to try and figure stuff out. So I heard someone take a pot shot at metal guitar players, and Lexi Lalo is just a genius guitar player, and he's doing the classical stuff I wanted to do, and I saw him doing it, and I went, man, I love it. I'll give it a try. Of course, Lexi's like the kind of caliber guitar player that I always have in my band with me. One of those super guitar players. So it was a little daunting for me to do that, but I take exception when people say that we can't do things just because of the way we look or the music that we're listening to. How do you know? So going down there and doing that with the San Diego Symphony, it was very interesting because I had to kind of peek a little bit at what they were doing, and seeing hand shapes that they use on fretless instruments doesn't help a bit. But one of the things I noticed was that the songs had a certain tension in there. There'd always be a part where there was like the build-up, like in the Disney movies where the wolf would come or the poisonous apple was being handed, and that kind of stuff. There was always that moment. It's really, really neat, And Bullet to the Brain is primarily one of the strongest parts where I use some of the Vivaldi kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a little teeny part in my solo, very weird little solo part. It's real fast picking, and you're just shifting the chords, kind of like a moving bass line like the Beatles had a lot of. The Beatles would use this progression where the chord would be here and the bass would be a walking bass line away from it. And I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but that's how I say it.
Could you play a little bit of the Thread is Real? I said that's your opening song.
There's a lot of stuff that I play that are nuanced things. If you don't watch me do it, you wouldn't hear it. Like, for example, Thread, that's a pull-off, right? And then the other one is a sliding pull-off. You got to get the C on the way down. So that's that speed. Slow. That sliding pull. To get the passing route from the D to the C and you land there in time, you're not going to hear that. So, and a lot of people they probably would try to like.
Exactly.
And it's not as easy for me to do that, especially singing. So there's a lot of shortcuts and stuff like that. I think that makes it a lot easier. The other thing in that song too, during the solo part, it's a really weird hammer-on effect. So that's how the part comes down. So at speed, it's a lot different, and it almost looks like you're missing the chord. So the way they're, and if the drums are just going, you wouldn't hear it, but it goes, so it picks up that little passing kind of note thing there.
That is cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things in there too that comes back to me being brought up on Motown and a lot of rhythm and blues stuff. Yeah, I had three older sisters, and love that stuff. I think that there's hidden beauty in the simplicity of the songs that were written by the Motown songwriters. You know, from what I hear, they would go in one day, I think it's a Thursday, and they'd write songs all week, and they'd have to meet on Monday and at the label, and they'd pick the songs that they worked, and they'd record them, and then Thursday they'd listen to everybody, and then start all over again. And that's how they do it. That's why there's a lot of similarity with some of their songs, as the majority of the songwriters were part of the same camp. And I think that as a musician, as a guitar player, you know, you're only as good as your influences. So I wanted to have, I'm a rhythm guitar player that sings and plays lead. So if you want something that's really rhythmic, you want something that's smooth, that doesn't have sharp corners. You know, when you start getting into music that you're a rhythm player and you've got to have like a slide rule, or you know, have some kind of crazy, you know, equation on how to rock out. If you can't keep the beat to the song with your foot, it starts getting too weird. Like, I mean, I can keep the beat to Money, Pink Floyd, but you know, it's because you know the song. You know, you can kind of do that anticipated 7/4 thing. But you know, when you start getting into like Dave Brubeck with the 5/4 time or whatever that is, it's like, that's cool. It reminds me though of Prince in Purple Rain, where the manager goes up and goes, "The only person who understands your music is yourself." You know, and I like songs that make me feel good, but I also like songs that make other people feel good. So you're doing something that's difficult or challenging, sure, you know, I mean, you can feel good at the end of the day, but I would rather that you make people choose your music when they're feeling bad, or if they're feeling good, if they want to celebrate or they want to fight, you know, this is their go-to band. Not something where they go like, you know what? I'm feeling like listening to some syncopated polyrhythmic songs right now.
So Dave, you talk about this rhythm thing, and that's who you primarily are. I mean, who were some of those, I mean, strictly rhythm guitar players that were kind of doing it for you? I mean, who were those guys? I mean, if they weren't, you know, particularly solo guitar players, I mean, were they, you know, I mean, like people like Keith Richards or Lennon, does that do anything for you? That didn't do anything for you?
No, nothing against Keith Richards. I think he's a very entertaining person, but his playing style for me just wasn't there. I was a Beatles fan, and I liked The Who way more than I ever did the Stones. But I do recognize that great talent. Any dude that can snort his dad's ashes and live to tell. But no, for me, honestly, I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day. I learned how to play trying to drown out my sister's bad piano playing, and she had said, you should listen to Bad Company, they've got a lot of real easy chord shapes. You know, for me, a lot of the chords that I'll do, that makes it easy for me is most people will do a bar chord like that.
Yeah.
I'll just put this part, that's what I'll do. Like in To Le Monde, instead of going, I won't do that, just like, and that's the whole chord, because the bass is carrying that, and because the time, frequency mapped, if I'm not using that bottom note there and I'm only using these two top ones, there's a little bit more of separation between what I'm playing and what he's playing. Thus, the clarity of the bass. We've always wanted the bass to be played like lead bass. I remember telling Ellison and Samuelson when they first joined the band, you're lead bass, you're lead drums, you're lead guitars.
Wow.
You know, and that's how we've always approached it. Every instrument is vital. If there's no, if you got a guy in there that's just kind of sitting in the back, just kind of holding it down, then what's the point? I wanted to have a bass player that is as good as I am, and I think Dave's better. So I'm really blessed with my career because he's a great partner and he's a smoking bass player.
He is. He's great. He's great. I mean, talking about you touched on the drums before. Obviously, working with Chris must be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, working with Adler and Samuelson and Vinnie Collier, you know, those are probably three of the most technically surprising drummers because of their choice of riffs, fills, beats, stuff like that. And that's the stuff that's really cool too. It reminds me a lot of how Bonham would do stuff, you know. A lot of his performances were really, really unpredictable. You wouldn't think of doing a drum beat like that. Like the drum beat for Black Dog, what was he doing? Did he drop something when he was doing that drum beat? It totally works for the song, but in my mind I'm here, you know, and it's just like, I don't know, the power of suggestion, you know, thrashing the Black Dog.
Dave, can you talk a little bit about sort of the approach to guitar sounds on the Dystopia record? I mean, I know that in talking to Willie G, it's the fractal and it's that thing, but in the studio for you, it's an organic thing. It's the Marshall and the kind of let's crank it up and see what we got. And certainly over the years, you've worked with these remarkable producers and mixers, Josh Wilbur and Andy Snape and all these great guys. And how much do they contribute to what that ultimate guitar sound is, and how much do you live up to them? And just maybe fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, I guess they contribute as much as I let them, and I think that comes down to, if you're a band leader, it's your choice how much you want to let them. You have to be humble enough to know if you're in the presence of somebody with great ideas, and not let it be like, hey, I'm the band leader, I call the shots.
Mm-hmm.
With our organization, the reason Megadeth has been successful for so long, and we don't have people screaming sellouts like they do with a lot of other bands in our genre, it's because we've stuck to what works for us. And I think if you look at a lot of the things we do too, people think, well, this is the way Dave wants it. Well, yeah, that's the way Dave wants it, but it's not necessarily the way that Dave is. Sometimes I'll pick away and it's the wrong way, but I'm good enough, I don't know if say being able to play out the scenario in my head, but I'm a good enough judge of things to know that it has to be my way, it has to be the right way. And when we came down to doing the guitars in the studio, we had a guy that was saying, oh, you gotta go back and use the old amps from so far so here's a lot of sessions. And it's like, those are Lee Jackson modified Marshalls, and I didn't like the way they sounded.
Wow.
And so we used my JVM 410 and used some JMP 800s, and we used a Randy Rhoads Marshall that was hot rodded that I have. And that was the extent of the sounds that we used. We used a couple little teeny pedals to kind of notch stuff up for weird little things in backgrounds and plugins that come on Pro Tools, but I'm a Marshall guy, man. I died in the wool. I sat down, smoked cigars with Jim Marshall, took me to his home, invited me into his pool room. We listened to the music that he did as a kid and smoked cigars and drank. I can't remember what it was, but it tasted like paint, and there was probably scotch or whiskey or something like that. But that was remarkable. And, I remember hearing that Jimi Hendrix had to buy his Marshalls, so I love the fact that, I get treated the way that I do. And even if I didn't get the treatment that I get from Marshall, which is, second only to, I couldn't even think of another, I can't even think of another amplifier I've ever used besides the 410 that had the oomph in one amp. The 800s are great for lead solos, but for me, I like to dime them out, turn the speaker towards the wall, put a mic in between the wall, speaker cabinet, and then just roll everything all the way up, because there's so much of a monstrous gain that comes off of when you're doing that. And of course you can control when you're inside the room, but you really want to get that thing to overheat. There's so many different sounds that you can get out of different configurations of Marshalls. You don't have to always try to get the same sound out of one head. You know what I mean? And that goes back to your previous question about guitar players and influence, because we really didn't stop for that one very long. I liked Jimmy Page's way. I love the way that he has approached layering. You hear any one of those guitar tracks on their own at one instrument, you'll say, that sounds like it doesn't sound good.
Exactly.
I have to be respectful because it's
I get you.
my favorite bands. But when you start layering all those other things, they really start taking on a life of its own. And I think that for me is something that I really learned a lot from too. Now, as far as the rhythm, down-picking and stuff, loved Malcolm Young, thought that he was one of the most solid rhythm players ever. There's a guy named Brian Tapper with Diamond Head that's really cool with the riffing and stuff. Of course, Priest, Maiden, Motorhead, UFO, all those other bands in the British Invasion and the new wave of British heavy metal all influenced me too. But that all goes back to Robert Johnson.